We've got WoW's 20th anniversary coming up, and they are going off with a ton of different class changes, new talents, new tunings. It's a massive list of changes, and I've seen about half of them. I didn't go through all of them because I wanted to go through them live. And we're going to go through all the tanks, and we're also going to go through rogues because those have been the classes that we've been focusing on this channel. But there is a ton of changes for boomkins, hunters, mages, priests. So if your class isn't covered in today's video, definitely still go check it out because there is a ton of changes, and your class might have had some changes to it as well. So first things first, let's kick off the Dracthyr changes. I know they're not a tank class, but they are pretty massive because they're going to affect some classes that are available to be played as Dracthyr. So we have to spread their wings. That's being able to fly around, fly in a squadron, things like that. But what I really want to focus on is their racials. So tail swipe cooldown's been increased to 3 minutes from 1.5 minutes. Wing buffet cooldown has been increased to 3 minutes from 1.5 minutes as well. So what that is, you know, Dracthyr are typically as evoker, as preservation, as augmentation, as devastation, you had these really good racials that were on a short cooldown. You always had pretty much 2 interrupts, 2 stuns on a 1.5 minute cooldown, that because they were both 1.5 minutes, you could use one, use the other one, and you could kind of rotate them back and forth. But because they're opening up Dracthyr to warriors and rogues and mages and all these different classes, they can't have them also have a 1.5 minute stop. So they increased the cooldown on it to 3 minutes for their 2 stops. So it's kind of a nerf to evokers, while these other classes are coming in and being able to play Dracthyr. So that's an unfortunate side effect of other classes being able to play that race. I don't know if it probably doesn't affect things too heavily, but I do know that in dungeons, having those often were really good. So that's unfortunate for evokers, but on the plus side, if you were a warrior and you're going in, now you got 2 interrupts, 2 more stuns. You know, you have what's it called, the frontal stun, you have the targeted stun, and now you have 2 more. So not bad for other classes, not great for evokers, unfortunately. But all right, let's get into some of the tank classes. Let's start with Death Knight. So we got Deathbringer, whole list of new talents, changes, talents have been removed. So we're going to start with the newest talent, Reaper's Onslaught. Reduces the cooldown of Reaper's Mark by 15 seconds, but the number of marrow rents and obliterates empowered by Exterminate is reduced by 1. I thought there was a talent that already kind of did that. Could be wrong, but I remember there being a talent that reduced Reaper's Mark by a certain amount and also reduced the amount of Exterminates. So this just might be a little change in positioning, or maybe it's a new talent. Maybe I'm just Mandela affecting this thing, but I always thought there was a talent that did that. But anyways, maybe it's a good trade-off. I don't know. I think the double Exterminate was really strong, so I think that you maybe don't take that. But if you got any DKs in the chat, or you know, hey, let me know. Next, we got Swift and Painful. If no enemies are struck by Soul Rupture, you gain 10% strength for 8 seconds. So that's when Reaper's Mark explodes and deals damage to targets around the target. If there's no targets around it, is that the time that you want 10% strength? Probably not. If you're in between packs and you have 8 seconds to get to the next pack, you probably have this 10% strength buff on your opener, which could be good, but it feels like the kind of the inopportune time to get that. Wave of Souls is 100% more effective on the main target of your Reaper's Mark. That's pretty good. Wave of Souls increases damage taken by 5% and stacks twice. So now that's a 20% increase to damage taken on your target. That's actually pretty massive. That's pretty good single target damage for some Deathbringer. Okay. Next, we got Reaper of Souls. When you apply Reaper's Mark, the cooldown of your Soul Reaper is reset. Your next Soul Reaper costs no runes, and it explodes regardless of the target's remaining health. Soul Reaper damage increased by 20%. I kind of like that. You'll be able to throw on a Reaper's Mark, throw on a Soul Reaper, and immediately will explode and deal a bunch of damage. I think that's a solid change. I don't know if it's going to be like, there's no negative effect to Soul Reaper here. but maybe there's something I'm not seeing. Otherwise, it's just an increased damage and an immediate explosion, so might be pretty good. Painful Death's effects are now baseline to exterminate. Exterminate empowers 2 obliterate Marrow Rends to summon the Scythe baseline. Okay, so maybe the talent I was thinking of before could have been like a choice talent or something that was with this, with Painful Death's effects that empowered 2, and you know, maybe that's what I'm thinking of, because maybe it was baseline before with just 1 and now it's 2. Anyways, I don't know. It feels like I said, I feel like I saw that talent before, but Exterminate empowering 2 obliterates and Marrow Rends as a baseline effect. That's really good. Grim Reaper's been updated. Reaper's Mark Initial Strike grants Killing Machine / 3 charges of Bone Shield. Reaper's Mark Explosion deals up to 30% increased damage based on your target's missing health. That's pretty good. So the lower your health is, the lower the target's health is at when Reaper's Mark explodes, deals more damage. So if you kind of get it towards the end, you get a big burst towards you know, finishing the pack off. I think it's pretty good. And 3 charges of Bone Shield I think is really good to have too, because it's going to help your opener a little bit. So that's good. Good change. Wither Away has been updated. Blood Plague / Frost Fever deals its damage 100% faster, and the second Scythe of Exterminate applies Blood Plague and Frost Fever. So that was always the thing. It always increased it by 100%, I believe. And the second Scythe of Exterminate, applying it is probably just a quality of life thing. Being able to hit all your enemies and restack that saves you a GCD. If you're out of Blood Plague charges, you get that reapply. So overall, it's pretty good. Dark Talons has been updated. Marrow Rend and Heart Strike / Consuming Killing Machine or Rhyme has a 25% chance to grant 3 stacks of Icy Talon and increase its maximum stacks by the same amount. So it has a chance to grant 3 and increase it by the same amount. So maybe it's not always going to grant 3. That's how it kind of reads to me, because otherwise it would say increase maximum stacks by 3. So it looks like there could be a range there. Runic Power spending abilities count as Shadow Frost while Icy Talons is active. That's pretty good for Deathbringer, being able to stack that a little bit faster, a little bit easier. Stack those Reaper's Mark charges. So overall, I think a good change to Dark Talons. Bind in Darkness has been updated. Rhyme empowers. Let's scroll down here. Rhyme empowered Howling Blast deals 30% increased damage to its main target. Blood Boil deals 10% increased damage and is now Shadow Frost. I think that was always changed, and it was maybe that it didn't deal damage, but it was always Shadow Frost. And Shadow Frost damage applies 2 stacks of Reaper's Mark and 4 stacks when it's a critical strike. I think that was the same too. So if that damage increases is the adjustment to it, that's good. Give it more damage. Everybody loves damage. Rune Carved Plates now reduces the magical and physical damage you take by 1.5%. Per stack was 2%, so that goes from 10% to about, I think it's like 7%. So that kind of sucks because that was up all the time. It was kind of just like a flat DR, like a passive DR you had all the time, because you were always spending runes and generating runes. So a little nerf to their defensiveness, but overall I think the changes are pretty solid for Death Knight. We got a frost change down here. Arctic Assault now fires a glacial advance at 80%. Effectiveness was 100. Little nerf to the damage. Frost has taken a couple nerfs now. I think they're still very strong now, so if you're a Frost CK, it's okay. All right. Demon Hunter icon updated. That's whatever. You're just going to be a little confused when you log in. Felscard. Focus Hatred now provides bonus damage beyond 1 target only, with the bonus reducing by 10% for each target beyond 1. So Focus Hatred used to be a 50% increase to Demon Surge when it struck 1 target. I'm guessing this is going to be 1 target's 50% increase, 2 targets is 40%, 3 targets is 30%, 2 targets is, or 4 targets is 20%, and so on and so forth. So it looks like a little buff to AoE damage from Demon Surge, which is pretty good. Demon Surge was already really bursty. But the way it says provides bonus damage beyond 1 target only means maybe it's I don't know. I think to me it's like a stacking or reducing effect per target except beyond one. So to me, it reads 40% for 2 targets, and like I said, 30% for 3 targets, and so on. So a little bit of a buff to AoE that doesn't necessarily hurt their single target at all. So that's nice. Vengeance. Metamorphosis now heals you for 40% of your maximum health instead of modifying your health directly. That feels like a bad change to me. Let me scroll down here so you can see this. That feels like a bad change because I'd rather have more health than have a heal, because going into a pack, you kind of have to take a beating before you pop Metamorphosis to get that benefit of the heal, rather than being able to go into it with meta and having more health. Kind of like Incarn for bears. So that feels bad. Casting Metamorphosis while in demon form no longer heals you. Triggering Last Resort always heals you for 40% of your base maximum health. So it looks like Last Resort got better, but not getting healed when you cast meta in demon form feels kind of bad, because that was when you would do your fell breath. I forgot what it's called. So if you do the breath and then go from that into meta, you don't get healed, so you have to wait for that to fall off. So that doesn't feel great. It doesn't feel like outwardly these two like super negative for Demon Hunter, but it just feels like it's gonna feel slightly worse to meta, or like not worse to meta, but worse to meta going into a pack as opposed to like jumping in and meta when you land and having that additional health. Now it's a heal, so now you don't really want to use it going in, I don't think. And then having to make sure you're not in demon form when you cast meta to get the benefit of that heal. It feels a little clunky. Druid. Mark of the Wild cost is reduced wow. Mark of the Wild now costs 1% base mana, was 4%. I don't think that mattered to anybody ever. A couple icon changes. Druid of the Claw. Ravage can now be used within 20 seconds of triggering it, was 15 seconds. I don't think anybody ever waited 15 seconds. I think unless you got it and the pack ending, and even then, like Stampeding Raw, Charge, Ravage, like you can usually get it off pretty quickly. So that feels like a nothing change. We're not going to go through the balance stuff because we are not balanced druids over here. Same with Evoker, Hunter. Actually, I want to see what Evoker has any changes. Okay, here we go. Clobbering Sweep reduces Tail Swipe's cooldown by 2 minutes, was 45 seconds. Okay, so you get if you're taking the talent to reduce your cooldown, you now have a better stun or interrupt, because now it used to be 1.5 minutes, getting reduced by 45 seconds would put it down to 45 seconds. Oh no, maybe not, because yeah, 1.5 minutes would put it down to 45 seconds, so you still have a worse stun but not as bad. You go from 45 seconds to having a minute cooldown, which a minute cooldown is really not that bad at all. I don't know if these were talents you took, but this feels like a counter to having that extended cooldown. So evokers still have those stuns, so that's okay. That's good. That's good for evokers, because that would have sucked to just lose 2 of your really good racials, or not lose, but have a much longer cooldown on them. This kind of balances it out a little bit. All right, we're gonna skip Hunter. We're gonna skip Mage. Monk, icon updated. Mistweaver, nope, no Brewmaster changes, unfortunately. Brew's been a little weaker recently. It feels really weak right now in heroics because you just don't take enough damage to really utilize your charges. So Brew feels extra weak, even though nothing's changed. It just feels a lot weaker because you're not getting the benefit of Brew, of the stagger. So I've noticed that some people have been saying that, oh, Brew feels really bad right now. It does feel really bad right now, but it's not something that is gonna feel bad in Mythic Plus. All right, on to Paladin. Many talents have changed locations. Okay, so some of these are probably going to be good and bad, but it's going to be dependent on where these talents show up. So let's get into them. Holy Ritual. Allies are healed when you cast a blessing spell on them and healed again when the blessing ends. Okay, I'm not sure how much the heal is going to be. But as a pally, you are throwing out Blessing of Spell Warding, Blessing of Sacrifice, Blessing of Freedom, things like that. So you are going to get some additional heals out of that, Holy or Prot. I mean, Prot, I think that's the Spell Warding, but Seal of Freedom and actually Blessing of Sacrifice and Blessing of Freedom or Seal of Freedom. I can't remember right now. Blessing of Freedom. Okay, yeah. So yeah, there is going to be some additional healing as a tank throwing out on some of your party members, which I like. I've always liked that aspect of pallies. Next we got Worthy Sacrifice. You automatically cast a Blessing of Sacrifice onto allies within 40 yards when they receive damage while below 35% health, and you are not in a loss of control effect. This effect activates 100% of Blessing of Sacrifice's cooldown. This was, I saw this earlier, and I think it'd be really good in a Mythic Plus scenario. Let me scroll down here. Really good in a Mythic Plus scenario because it's only 4 of the targets that you're kind of taking that funnel damage from. In raid, this might just nuke a pally. If everybody gets hit by like a raid-wide AoE while they're below health, it's just gonna funnel a ton of damage into the paladin and just kill him if he's also kind of low. Or I wonder if there's going to be some sort of balance effect to it, or if you can bubble it. If you can bubble it, it becomes very good in raid because you can plan for this raid-wide damage to come out. You can bubble and you can funnel all that damage to the pally who won't take any of it. So this is probably really good in Extend Mythic Plus. Good or bad in raid. We'll see how it actually plays out. Steed of Liberty. Divine Steed also grants Blessing of Freedom for 3 seconds. That's phenomenal. That's something that should have been in from day one. Like Sprint has that, Tiger's Lust has that. Divine Steed being able to break you out of snares and roots and stuff like that, I think is warranted. I think it's fairly well needed, and also allows you to Blessing of Freedom somebody else, because it doesn't say that it goes on cooldown, so you'll be able to get yourself and somebody else out of something. So that's really good. That's kind of playing into that pally lore of being like the group utility. Next we got Eye for an Eye. Melee and ranged attackers receive holy damage each time they strike you during Ardent Defender, Divine Protection, and Divine Shield. If you've played Pally, you know they are fairly squishy right now. Ardent Defender is used all the time, so that's actually really good. I don't know how much damage you're going to take, but it might add a nice chunk of your damage if you on some big pulls, to be able to Ardent Defender on a big pull and just have everybody receiving holy damage. That's really good. I like that change. Stoicism. The duration of stun effects on you is reduced by 20%. Kind of irrelevant in PvE, and then it's also nerfed a little bit in PvP. So it's probably something that, unless you're taking it as filler, you probably skip. Wrench Evil. Turn Evil's cast time is reduced by 100%. And then Stand Against Evil. Turn Evil now affects 5 additional nearby enemies. I don't think there's a lot of use cases for Turn Evil, so I don't think this actually gets taken ever. Trying to think of spots that have like undead in it. I don't think there's many, if any. Could just be a filler talent, but probably not taken otherwise. All right, Righteous Protection. Blessing of Sacrifice now removes and prevents all poisons and disease effects. So this is going to be, this combined with Worthy Sacrifice is probably going to be really good in like Arakara? Yeah, Arakara, then the last boss, which puts out all the poisons. That might actually be really nice. If people are low and she shoots the poison out and they get below 35% health, Blessing of Sacrifice hits everybody, wipes off all poison and disease effects. Could be bad if you have the poison wings that shoot out. That might cause some issues, but otherwise the general poison is probably pretty good. And I think that's just really good to have. If you need to clear your healer, you know, you can cleanse yourself, Blessing and Sacrifice your healer, and now you guys are both good. It's an extra cleanse, so not bad. Light's Countenance. The cooldown of Repentance and Blinding Light are reduced by 15 seconds. Probably a filler talent. Blinding Light, we have so many silences that it's not something that we're relying on, especially with the new changes into Mythic Plus. But having it a little more often, having one more additional stop or interrupt, I guess, is pretty good. Blinding Light's always been one of those abilities that's like, I use it, but I hate how long the cooldown is. So this actually might be nice depending on where it is in the tree. Sacred Strength. Holy Power spending abilities are 2% more effective. Okay, I'm not sure what the what divine purpose does offhand. Let me look that up to see if that's worth it. Divine purpose, paladin, or within. Looks like it's not even showing up. All right. So I'm not sure what divine purpose does offhand, but I think that the holy power being more effective, holy power spending abilities, that's going to translate into your shield of the righteous. It's going to translate into your word of glory. It's going to translate into even Templar, using your holy hammer, your hammer of light. So this is actually probably a decent ability. 2% is not really that crazy, but it seems like a solid change. Divine Spurs. Divine Steed's cooldown is reduced by 20%, but its duration is reduced by 40%. I think that the cooldown on Divine Steed is already pretty good, and I probably wouldn't want to reduce the cooldown in order to get and have 40% reduced duration. That feels probably worse. The loss is worse than the reward. Adjust rewards. Speak of the devil. After Cleanse successfully removes effects from an ally, they are healed. I'm curious how much of the healing it's actually going to do. That would make that Blessing of Sacrifice comboed with a Worthy Sacrifice. Probably, if it heals a good chunk, that's going to be really nice. If it doesn't really heal much, then it's kind of whatever. And we've seen that Holy Pally healing has been fairly weak, so we'll see how it goes. Imperial Ward. Lay on Hands grants the target 100% increased armor for 30 seconds and now ignores healing reduction effects. That's really good. Lay on Hands doesn't have that long of a cooldown, and I think there's some talents in the hero tree that reduce it even further. And being able to kind of use this for 30 seconds of 100% increased armor, that's kind of like a pretty solid defensive. If you're in like a big pack and you maybe run out of cooldowns or something and you are getting beat up, Lay on Hands isn't going to just heal you, it's going to reduce a lot of the damage you take for the duration of the pull. So that's a cool change. I like that. Lightbearer. 10% of all healing done to you from other sources heal up to 4 nearby allies, divided evenly among them. Kind of like a weaker beacon. If you're as a tank, that's probably not bad, just like some group healing consistent. But again, it's a lot of these are going to depend where they are in the tree and what you're having to choose against them. But that just feels like a flat, just like increase to group healing, which isn't terrible, but it also isn't shocking. Selfless Healer. Flash of Light and Holy Light are 30% more effective on your allies, and 40% of the healing done also heals you. That's really good for Holy Pallies. Flash of Light and Holy Light are 30% more effective on your allies. That's just a huge jump in Flash and Holy. Flash of Light and Holy Light. So that's good for Holy Pallies. And you also heal yourself a little bit, so you don't need to spend the cast time and the GCD on yourself. If you're just spamming these heals out, you're also getting healed a chunk of it as well. So it's a nice little change. Inspired Guard. Ardent Defender and Divine Protection increase healing taken by 15% for their duration. That's pretty good. Pallies have had some tough time surviving. Ardent Defender is up quite often, and being able to take increased healing for that duration is going to be a nice little improvement. Holy Reprieve. Your forbearance duration is reduced by 10 seconds. That might combo with the Lay on Hands Imperial Ward pretty nicely, but I don't think that the reduction, the Lay on Hands cooldown is going to be far longer than forbearance anyways. But it's good if you have to bubble and then have to Lay on Hands afterwards. So that's a nice little adjustment. Removing harmful effects with Divine Shield heals you. Removing harmful. Oh, okay. I was thinking of Avenger Shield. It's like, what does that do? Removing harmful effects with Divine Shield heals you for 10% of each effect removed. This heal cannot not exceed 30% of your maximum health. Divine Shield may now be cast while Forbearance is active. So that kind of negates this. Kind of like, as long as you Lay on Hands first, then you can always bubble afterwards and get a little healed from that as well. I can't see you having to bubble after having 100% increased armor. But there is occasions where I go to hit Divine Shield and a pull gets a little out of control or something, and I have Forbearance, so maybe good. A lot of these are like maybe good depending on where they are, like I mentioned a second ago. So we'll see. We have to see how it plays out. Blessed Calling. Allies affected by your blessing have 15% increased movement speed. Yeah, it's whatever. If you can do a raid-wide 15% increased movement speed on some dangerous mechanics, maybe it helps, but they have to be low for it to proc to do like your worthy sacrifice. So I don't know, kind of whatever. Lead the charge. Divine Steed reduces the cooldown of 4 nearby allies' major movement abilities by 3 seconds, and your movement speed is increased by 3%. A little bit of an evoker effect there. I don't know. I think there might be some very niche iterations between reducing the the talent that reduces the cooldown of it, and then also using this to kind of just generate movement abilities. I don't see it being something that's like prominent at all, but maybe there's a raid fight where everybody needs to use movement abilities quicker, and as a pally you can just Divine Steed on cooldown while you're standing in place, and it's going to just reduce everybody else's CDs. But even that just feels like a reach. Divine Reach, jeez, I'm ahead of the game here. The radius of your auras is increased by 20 yards. Cool. That's probably just a raid thing. In Mythic Plus, you're always within 20 yards anyways, typically. Or not 20 yards, but you're within aura range. Fist of Justice has been redesigned. The cooldown of Hammer of Justice is reduced by 15 seconds. It's cool. Having the extra stun's always nice. Sanctified Wrath has been redesigned. Now increases the duration of Avenging Wrath and causes its respective specialization effects. Was able to be its own spell. I don't know what was able to be its own spell means, but increasing the duration of Avenging Wrath, that's good. That's kind of what people have been taking over Sentinel, just because Sentinel feels really weak right now. Avenging Wrath is really strong, so that's really good. It's also really good for rep pallies. Consecrated Ground is now a class talent. That's the slow when they're in Consecrate. Not something I take as a tank, because if I'm moving, I want them to move with me. But there probably is cases where you can take that, and if you have to kite, you can drop Consecrate. It does help. Kiting might be a thing, but we'll see how that works. Aura of the Resolute now additionally teaches the Paladin Crusader Aura. Oh, Crusader Aura is back. Okay. Well, that was taken out, I think, for a long time. It's like a 20% increased mount speed or something like that. Seasoned Warhorse is now a passive learning to level 40. Judgment damage increased by 10%. That's good because some damage increase. Cooldown has been reduced by 1 second. That's probably to combat the haste change. Haste has been scaled kind of crazily compared to Dragonflight. Like, just for example, coming from my warrior, he had about 60% haste, and now he has about 20. So allies feel that a lot with Judgment and Blessed Hammer. So that being reduced by 1 second, that's actually really going to help tanks. Hammer of Justice base cooldown is reduced to 45 seconds, was 60 seconds. So the base cooldown is down to 45, and you can reduce it by 15 seconds. So you can have a 30-second stun. That's pretty good. Avenging Wrath now increases critical strike chance by default, so there's no talent that you need to have to get that critical strike. That's nice. That's something we've not necessarily asked for, but is a good quality of life change. Unbound Freedom now additionally targets a nearby ally by default if you cast Blessing of Freedom on yourself. That's good. So now you can have. Wait, does that mean that when you Divine Steed and you cast? So it's kind of like the Tiger's Lust. If Divine Steed grants Blessing of Freedom for 3 seconds, and then Blessing of Freedom hits a nearby ally, that means you can break somebody out just by breaking yourself out of a route. So that's nice. And if it doesn't go on cooldown and you have another one, you can get 4 people out. So yeah, that's actually, that's only if you cast it on yourself. So 3 people out. Still good. Lightforged Blessing now heals for 3% of maximum health for all specializations. Was 1% for Holy and Prot, 2% for Ret. A little bit more healing for Prot Pally. That's something we needed. Of Dusk and Dawn, Blessing of Dawn's effects have been increased by 10% for Prot and Ret, and by 5% for Holy. Okay, that's really good too. Nice little 10% increase. Let me make sure I'm thinking of the right ability. Blessing of Dawn, Paladin, War Within. All right, damage and healing increased by 6% for 12 seconds. So that's going to be like a little slight increase. Yeah, still just increase for damage and healing. That's good. We'll take it. Divine Toll's icon's been updated. It's whatever. Fist of Justice and Holy Aegis are now 1 point. Holy Aegis. What was that ability? It's probably a talent I have to look into. But anything that drops down a point is good. The following talents are now 2 points. Following talents have been removed, so they removed a ton. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm sure some of these are scattered between. Oh yes, well it shows it right there. Steel of Crusader, Ret and Proc, and then that's just Holy. So Proc got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 talents removed. 9 extra talent points if we took all those, which I don't know if we took all of them, but 9 extra. I mean, it's going to change the whole tree layout, so that's big. Lightsmith. All right, here we go. We got some prot stuff. Authority Rebuke, successfully interrupting an enemy spellcast reduces your rebuke cooldown by 1 second. Effect increased by 100% while wielding a holy armament. We do interrupt a lot, so you're gonna basically want to lead with this and then let your shield and your divine toll do other interrupts. And if you're holding a holy armament and you divine toll and interrupt a couple people, that's going to cut down that cooldown pretty quickly. So that's nice with how important interrupts are as opposed to stuns. So that's a nice little added feature for Pallies. Pallies already have a ton of interrupts, and now we have one that's going to reduce some talents. Tempered in battle. When you're an ally wielding a holy bulwark are healed above maximum health, transfer 100% of the overhealing to your ally. When you are an ally wielding a secret weapon, drop below 40% health, redistribute your health immediately and every 1 second for 4 seconds. So looks like sacred weapon causes like a spirit link, and then holy bulwark just causes like a beacon of light essentially. So I mean, I don't think Lightsmith is great. I don't think Templar is great, but that's like I guess a good change. It's one of those like I guess it's good, but could be better. It didn't really make it's not making Lightsmith stick out. All right, we got some prot stuff. New talent, Refining Fire. When struck by Avenger Shield, burn with Holy Fire, suffering damage over time. I'm pretty sure that was already a talent. Might just be a new talent, new placement, something like that. But yeah, it's I think we already had something similar to that. Word of Glory healing increased by 20%. That's huge. Well, maybe not huge, but Word of Glory has been very weak since beta, and they've made some big changes to it, and it's okay now. But I don't know if 20% is going to make it like crazy, but it might make it more worthwhile to hit. Because that was the issue, is that it wasn't the value of it wasn't higher than keeping Shield of the Righteous up. Which, speaking of it, Shield of the Righteous damage increased by 20%. That's good too. We got some increase to Shield of the Righteous damage. We got some increase to Word of Glory, and Consecrated Ground has been removed. That's fine with me too. Good changes to prot. Not overwhelming changes. They're not quite going to be, top tier yet, but we're moving in the right direction. So, and that's happy. I've been gearing up the prot pally with kind of some hopium. So this is actually really nice. All right, let's move down to Rogue. New talent, Thrill Seeking. Shadow Step / Grappling Hook has 1 additional charge. Okay, so Thistlety now automatically triggers when energy is reduced below 50. That's not good for sub and assassination. Probably fine for outlaw if you take it, but that's you have specific use cases for Thistlety with assassination and subtlety, like very specific. So having it automatically trigger means you might have to dance above 50 energy, which is not ideal. Takes a button off the bar if you think it's a little too much. But like I said, for assassination, you always want to Thistlety into Kingsbane, and having to make sure you're above 50 is a super pain. I knew about this one because I was in the Rogue Discord and somebody had made a weak aura that just showed 50 less energy. So you always made sure to like, you watched the bar and made sure that you never went below that. But that's I don't really like that change. Cut to the chase, now grants slice and dice duration instead of requiring an existing slice and dice to extend. Okay, so you never need to slice and dice. That's big. I think everybody in the rogue community has hated slice and dice forever, and just been like, this is a bad button that we just have to keep up. And they tried to do some changes with outlaw, you know, extending it, which was fine because you extended it. You would have like 20-minute slice and dices. Cut to the chase always kind of just improved it, but now you don't even need to hit the button at all, which is nice, especially in the opener for assassination, not having to weave that in, but instead just casting in venom. It gives you some slice and dice duration. That's actually a really good change. Shadow Step has been removed. Shadow Step still automatically granted for assassinations. I thought that was crazy. I was like, I thought they're dropping Shadow Step. Okay, so it's not an outlaw ability anymore. It's strictly assassination sub. That seems kind of fitting, I think. I love grappling hook, so I'm not too upset about that. Soothing Darkness now heals for 30% of max health over 6 seconds, was 15. Effect no longer triggers from Shadow Dance. So this is an increase to the healing, but I think most of the healing you got from it was from Shadow Dance and not necessarily from vanishing. So that's probably an overall nerf to like sub specifically. I don't think it really takes Shadow Dance anywhere else. It's kind of a nerf to sub. Unfortunate. Echoing Reprimand and Flagellation's icon has been updated. Okay. Fatebound, Inevitability renamed Inevitable End. Inevitable End / Double Jeopardy effects now indicate that they can match any flip outcome, including edge. So you're not just going to flip for tails or heads, you're going to flip for the edge, which could possibly give you both. So that's good. Delivered Doom now provides bonus damage when more than one target is nearby, with bonus reducing by 6% for each target beyond one. What was Delivered Doom? Let's see. Delivered Doom, Rogue War Within. Damage dealt with your Fatebound coin flips. Damage dealt when your Fatebound coin flips tails and increased by 30% if there's no other targets nearby. Okay, so it's kind of like the change to meta or Demon Surge, where it's now provides bonus damage with more than one target. Oh, so it doesn't provide bonus damage on a single target anymore, is kind of how it's reading. That's actually really bad for the single target. If it's the same way where it's like 30% single target, and then reducing 6% for each target beyond one, I think that probably makes most sense because most things get reduced beyond 5 targets. So that would make sense that 30% is reduced to 0 beyond 5 targets. So hopefully that's how it works and we don't lose any single target damage there. Assassination. Twist the Knife now enables Envenom's beneficial effect to overlap up to 2 times. I like that because I think you were supposed to wait until like 1 second or like sub 1 second to Envenom, and it felt like go stop. And so I kind of like that change. Envenom tooltip updated to potentially reflect the overlapping behavior when Twist the Knife is none. Okay, that's fine. Crack Shot now also refreshes the cooldown of Between the Eyes upon gaining stealth. That's a huge change that outlaw rogues have been asking for quite a while. You can sometimes get a bug where at the end of your subterfuge, you Between the Eyes and it goes on cooldown. So being able to ensure that when you can vanish, it's going to be back is really big, and it allows you to Between the Eyes right before vanishing, to potentially get that proc and then just kind of roll into it. So that's a really good quality of life change for rogues. That's huge. Precise Cuts now increases blade flurry damage by 4% per missing target below its max was 2%. Good. I don't think it beats out the only other option, which I think is Ghostly Strike for it. So I don't know. I would at face value really good change. It's literally doubling your damage increase, but I don't know if it beats Ghostly Strike just yet. We'll have to see for some sims to come out. Keep It Rolling cooldown reduced to 6 minutes was 7. I'll take it. Keep It Rolling's really, the Cure setup is really hard to play right now because you need about 20% haste for it to be like good. which is with the haste changes and the scaling is really hard to get to. But having that reduced by a minute and then further reduced by spending combo points, that's really good. I like that change a lot. I love to keep it rolling, so I'm really I loved Outlaw. Outlaw is my favorite rogue spec, and I love to keep it rolling. So these are good changes for me. Blade Flurry's area of effect range increased to match the same distance it was when the previous version of Acrobatic Strikes was talented. That's massive, because there's so many times where I would be Blade Flurrying as Outlaw and I wouldn't be hitting targets because I would be stuck on the outside of something. And now it's going to have that range that it had before. So that's going to make Blade Flurry feel a lot better in keys. Sub, new talent, Death Perception. Symbols of Death has half additional charges. Oh, 1 out of 2 additional charges. Two pont talent. Okay, so I just, Invigorating Shadow Dust and Sepsis have been removed. That's crazy. Sepsis and Shadow Dust was being played a lot, and it's gone now. That's kind of wild. All right, let's go on to skip Shaman, Warlock, Warrior. Champion Spear icon changed, Arms and Fury. So no prot changes to Warrior. Warrior's still feeling really strong. Overall, not upset with the changes. I think a lot of them are good. A lot of them are going to change gameplay a little bit. I'm really happy with the Valley changes. I'm excited to see the new talent tree. But overall, nothing was shockingly bad. You know, nothing kind of took me by surprise. They all seem generally good. I think Pally has a lot of new things that they can play around with. They've always had kind of unique trees to build around, so we'll see how that actually works out. I like the rogue changes. We're losing Slice and Dice. Double grapple hook is kind of cool. If we were Assassination, we're gonna double Shadow Step. But I think the grappling hook could provide some cool little niche situations, kind of like a Spider-Man effect. Disloyalty is not my favorite change, but I do like the other changes. Deliver Doom, if it works the way I think it's going to work, it gives us a little bit more AoE, aside from without sacrificing too much single target, if any. Hopefully we don't sacrifice single target. So there we go. That is the changes that are coming probably in the next couple months, I would assume. Probably late October, early November. And yeah, we'll probably see some more changes as we get closer to it. And until then, guys, see you next time.